Hello, and welcome back to Learn the Bible in a Year for March 4th, 2026. Today is National Grammar Day. This is a fantastic holiday for me because my grammar are gooder and goodly all the time. And all the time, God is good. Today in this episode, we're going to be covering clean and unclean animals, the rules for purification after childbirth, and then we'll be watching Jesus' enemies try to trap him with a couple of questions, and Jesus, well, we'll see what Jesus does. All right, now let's jump into our reading from the Old Testament. So we're in Leviticus chapter 11. This chapter is a detailed list of which animals the Israelites were permitted to eat and which they were not. The rules are fascinatingly specific. For land animals, the rules are pretty simple. If it has a completely divided hoof and chews cud, it is clean. So cows, sheep, and goats, they're in. But pigs, while it does have a split hoof, doesn't chew cud, so it's out. Camels chew cud, but they don't have split hooves, so they're also out. For sea creatures, the rule is fins and scales. If it has both, you can eat it. This means most fish are fine, but shellfish like shrimp, lobsters, clams, those are considered unclean. There's a long list of unclean birds, and then a general rule against eating most insects, with the exception of certain types of locusts and grasshoppers. Now, a question you might have here is why all these rules? Well, there's a few theories. Some point to hygiene, suggesting that the unclean animals were more likely to carry disease, and while that might be a secondary benefit, the primary reason is theological. It's all about holiness. These laws were a daily, tangible reminder to the Israelites that they were set apart by God. They were different from the nations around them. The rules created a sense of order, distinguishing them between the normal and the abnormal. Creatures that didn't fit neatly into their categories, like a water creature without fins and scales, were considered unclean. The ultimate point is stated at the end of the chapter. Be holy, because I am holy. This is what God says. These dietary laws were practical, everyday ways for people to live out that calling. Then in chapter 12, we get the laws for purification after childbirth. A woman who gives birth to a son is ceremonially unclean for 40 days. If she gives birth to a daughter, the period is doubled to 80 days. Now, it's important to understand that unclean here does not mean sinful or dirty. It's actually a state of ritual impurity and often relates to life and death. Childbirth, while a beautiful thing, involves a loss of blood, which is a potent symbol of life. It requires a period of separation from the sanctuary, the place of God's perfect life and holiness. So, the blaring question here is why is the time doubled for a daughter? That seems oddly specific and kind of weird and unfair. The Bible here doesn't exactly explain why, but it's not because daughters are less valuable, far from it. It may be because a female child carries within her the potential for future life and therefore future flows of blood, making the whole event doubly significant in a ceremonial sense. Remember, the word that we get caught up here are words like impure and unclean. So we automatically associate that with bad things. These aren't bad things, these are ceremonial processes. So some can even look at the doubling of a daughter's ceremonial cleaning as being double blessing. So that's just one way to look at it. After the purification period, the mother was to bring an offering, a lamb for a burnt offering, and a pigeon or turtle dove for a sin offering. But the law makes a crucial provision. If she can't afford a lamb, she can bring two birds instead. This is actually a huge deal. It shows that access to God and restoration is not dependent on wealth. And this is actually the exact provision that Mary and Joseph used after Jesus was born, as recorded in Luke chapter 2, which tells us the Holy Family was poor. It's an interesting fact. Now we jump into Mark chapter 12, where the opposition to Jesus is reaching its peak. His enemies are trying to trap him in a series of questions. First, the Pharisees and Herodians team up, which is like the Democrats and Republicans teaming up. They don't like each other, but they've got a common enemy in this case. It shows how much they really, really want to get rid of Jesus. In any case, they ask him about paying taxes to Caesar. This is a perfect trap question. If he says yes, then he's a traitor to his own people and a Roman sympathizer. But if he says no, well, then he's an insurrectionist and they can report him to Roman authorities for treason. Now, Jesus' response here is quite genius. He asks for a denarius coin, the same coin they use to pay taxes, and he asks, whose image is on this coin? They answer, Caesar's. Then Jesus delivers this knockout punch and he says, give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God. He completely sidesteps their trap and raises the stakes. Yes, give the coin with Caesar's image back to Caesar, but you who are made in the image of God, you owe your entire being, your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength to God. So he knocks him dead with that one. Next up are the Sadducees, who are part of a different religious leading group, and they didn't believe in the resurrection or the angels or spirits. Okay, so that's just kind of a side note about them. So they pose a ridiculous hypothetical question about a woman who marries 7 brothers in succession, asking whose wife she will be in the resurrection. They're trying to make the idea of resurrection sound absurd. And then Jesus replies back with one of my favorite scriptures in the entire New Testament. That's my favorite, I guess, comebacks, if you will, from Jesus. It's literally completely ruthless. He says, you are mistaken because you don't know the scriptures or the power of God. I mean, if you want just a slam dunk on somebody, these are religious leaders. Their entire life, their entire job, everything that's built into their self-worth has to do with knowing the scriptures and the power of God. And Jesus says you're wrong on this point because you don't know either. Basically, everything that you've been doing your entire life has been fruitless. That one's going to sting. He explains that in the resurrection, people won't be married, but it will be like the angels. Then he provides proof of the resurrection from the Torah, the only part of the Old Testament that the Sadducees actually accept as authoritative. He quotes from the story of the burning bush in Exodus, where God says, I am the God of Abraham, and of Isaac, and of Jacob. Jesus points out that God says, I am, present tense, not I was. He is the God of the living, not the dead. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were still alive in God's present, which means the resurrection is real. So, you want to end an argument quick? Well, Jesus just, he just slam dunked on him. It was awesome. I love that. I love that portion of scripture. Okay, today we close with the first half of Psalms 30. This is a Psalm of David, and it goes like this. I will exalt you, O Lord, for you have lifted me up and have not allowed my foes to rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cried to you for help and you healed me. O Lord, you pulled me up from Sheol. You spared me from the descending into the pit. Sing to the Lord, O you his saints, and praise his holy name, for his anger is fleeting, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may stay the night, but joy comes in the morning. To prosperity I said, I will never be shaken. O Lord, you favored me. You made my mountain stand strong. When you hid your face, I was dismayed. All right, just a quick word from our sponsor. Today, our sponsor is Covenant Security Equipment. They're a Christian-owned company, and really what they do is they sell materials that help make your home or a building that you're building more secure. They sell things like bullet-resistant windows and secure transaction systems and all types of things like that. If you are curious about making your own home just a little bit safer, I'd recommend going to covenantsecurityequipment.com and checking out what they have over there. Obviously, there's no obligation, but they are our sponsor, so go check out what they do over there. And also, I just want to remind you to pick up a copy of the Learn the Bible in a Year workbook. This is the book that I made for you. The digital version of the book is 100% for free, and you can also pick up the paperback version if that's what you want. The link to both of those are in the show notes, so make sure you check that out. Alrighty, what was your main takeaway from today's reading? You probably already guessed mine. I love when Jesus slam dunks on the Sadducees. I already talked about it there a bit, but I just love this whole perspective of Jesus. And I think the Hollywood modern, I think The Chosen, the show, if you've watched that, has actually done a better job at portraying Jesus in a more correct way than maybe some of the movies and such we've watched from an older time period. But the general idea, or I guess the general non-believing public, would think of Jesus as being kind of like a peaceful person, kind of just walks around, loving people, and he's very gentle. And some of those aspects of Jesus are definitely true. He did come as a servant of all, and he loved little children, things like this. So those aspects of Jesus are true. But when it came to holiness, when it came to the word of the Lord, he was shrewd. There's the scriptures that talk about him cutting like a two-edged sword, separating father and son, mother and daughter. Because speaking out of authority, which is what he did, well, that can really ruffle some feathers. And so here, when the Sadducees are obviously trying to trap him, he speaks with authority. The, kind of authority you would have if you were, I don't know, the creator of the entire world and the universe, right? He speaks with that kind of authority, and by doing that, these Sadducees have to tuck their tails between their legs and just give up, walk away. I like stories like that, but maybe I'm a little weird in the head, possibly. Let me know what your main takeaway was. Put it down in the comment section. I'd really appreciate that, and I will read it, and I'll respond to it if I can. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I will see all of you cool cats again here tomorrow.